Today I'm going to make Italian pork chops, and to start we're going to have to make some Italian breadcrumbs. These are garlic flavored croutons from Whole Foods, garlic flavored. I'm going to crush them with the rolling pin. Crunches down to about half of its previous size, and it's pretty fine. And be careful you don't break the bag. Or you'll have to call the dog to clean up. I'm going to add some seasonings. I'm going to add some parsley. That's too much there. That's good. About that much. I'm going to add some oregano. And I got this oregano from Jimmy's. There's already garlic in it, so you don't have to add any garlic. I avoid putting onion powder in my breadcrumbs. I'm going to add a little bit of fennel seed, which I'm going to crush up like this before I put it in. It adds a nice warm flavor. I put in about half. Some salt, not much, and some pepper, plain old pepper. And then you toss. Now this makes about 4 cups. I'm going to use all 4 cups today, so I'm going to store some for future use. And I like to store them in about 1 cup increments, because most recipes, when they call for breadcrumbs, they'll call for a cup. So in it goes. There's 1. I'm going to save 2 cups for my chops today. I think that's about how much I'll use on my pork chops. And once they're in the bag, if there's still some big pieces and they upset you, you can crunch them down in the bag. Anyway, I'm going to store these. I prefer to make my breadcrumbs fresh. That way I know they haven't been sitting around in a warehouse. Step is to bread the pork chops. So I put a little salt and pepper and seasonings to my liking in the bottom of this dish. I think it's a little fennel seed in there. And I'm going to add 3 eggs. Okay, 3 eggs. I'm going to beat the eggs with a fork. The egg acts as like a glue or a cement for when you bread the pork chops. That's good. Now you might notice that I've pushed all the breadcrumbs up into the corner of one platter. What I'm going to do now is dip each pork chop in egg, like that. Now some people dip them in flour first, some people dip them in milk, flour, and egg. I'm just going to use plain old egg today. You've got to let all the goo go off the chops so you don't fling it around. And then I'm going to bread it. Very simple. 1 side, 2 sides. I'm going to put my breaded chop here on this end of the platter. Now if your breadcrumbs are still too coarse, you can just crunch them with a fork. So, one side, two sides, and then into the crumbs. One side, two sides. Now I'm going to let the pork chops sit and kind of dry out for about 30 minutes so the breading sticks to them well. Now, while the chops set up a little bit, I'm going to make some basil stock to steam the chops in the oven. And I'm going to use a basil cube, which you can get at Whole Foods, and I'm going to dissolve it in a cup of hot water. A little bit, and as well as adding basil stock, I'm going to add a bouillon cube, a beef bouillon cube, to my There's my boiling water with the bouillon cube. The basil cube has been added, and now I'm going to add the beef cube. If I can get it open. There we go. Now you have to be careful. There it is. It's in the pan. You have to be careful if you're going to use a bouillon cube, because they tend to be real salty, so you have to adjust the salt in the rest of the recipe. The other thing, you can substitute wine for stock, but if you do that, don't oversalt your recipe, because wine really intensifies the flavor of salt intensifies the flavor. Wine and salt together is going to make it taste a lot saltier. So the cubes are in. I've turned the heat off, and I'm going to let them. I'm going to saute the chops now. Sear them. I'm going to sear them on each side, and then they'll go into the oven. Now the secret to sauteing and searing properly is that the oil has to be hot, and maybe you can see that this oil is already smoking. Alright, I'm going to add some garlic. Now, remember, when you add garlic to a pan, it can't cook on really high heat too long. It'll burn and turn bitter and lose all that wonderful flavor. Now I'm going to add the chops. They've been sitting for about an hour. I'm going to sear them on each side. So we're going to turn them over. See, the breading is already nicely browned. These are going to be good. It's very, very quick. Searing is very quick. All you really want to do is seal the meat. Seal the juices in the meat for when you bake. You can see the surface of the meat is already brown. Okay, those are going to sit for a few minutes in the hot pan. Sear on one side and sear on the other. The next step, once the meat is sealed, is to add the stock that we made a few minutes ago. The basil, this is basil and beef. Just add it to the pan. I'm going to put them in the preheated 325 oven. For about 25. And there's the chops.